Do you think you have a defining moment in your career?
Well, I tell you a defining moment in my life, and that was October 19th, 1983, which is probably before a lot of you were born, but there you go. And I'd been having this feeling that, you see, some people are unhappy and they've got good reasons for it, or less happy than they could be, and they've maybe had difficult childhoods or difficult parents or poverty or whatever. I had none of that. I had beautiful, loving parents. I had a wonderful brother and sister who's your mum. I had all the advantages, and I thought my attitude was not very good. I remember on October 19th, 1983, I said to myself, I'm going to see my life differently, and I'm going to grab opportunities when they come. I'm just going to improve my attitude. And from that day, I can remember that there was a huge shift, not only in how I felt, but in what was happening for me. And my understanding remains that when you really decide something, not when you half decide it, but when you say, I am going to do this, whatever it takes, I will do it. And for me, it was whatever it takes, I'm going to be an essentially happy guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was depressed, but I just decided that I was going to make a major shift in how I saw my life. I was going to make a major shift in just being grateful. And so, in many ways, my books get to that point at some point, which is happiness is not an accident. It's a choice that we make. Sometimes it's a tough choice, but it remains a choice that we make.
Yeah. It's in the mindset.
Absolutely.
Who do you think's the most inspiring person you've met?
You know, I get inspired by my readers. I get inspired by people who have had tougher lives than I have. I'll give you an example. I was standing in a shopping centre in Kuala Lumpur in December of 2013. A neatly dressed gentleman approached me, and I could see that he was surfing the web on his phone. And when he got closer, I could see that he was actually on my website, and there was a picture of me, and I was actually wearing the same shirt as was on the website. And I thought that he's going to say, have you only got one shirt? But he didn't. He said, are you Andrew Matthews? And I said, yes. He was looking really quite emotional, like he wanted to chat. And so I said, let's go have a coffee. And he said, my name is Teku, and he said, I'm from Aceh in Indonesia. And he said, I read your book when I was 20 years old, and I was absolutely broke. I was at university, he said. He said, I was so poor, I had a pair of trousers, but I didn't even own a shirt. And he said, I just started to understand by reading Being Happy, with the book you read, the Indonesian translation, that I could set goals for myself and that I could choose my thoughts. And he said, I got a card and I wrote down the things I wanted for me in my life. I wanted to have enough to eat, which I didn't have. I wanted to have a wife with 2 children, have a job. He said, now it's 20 years later, and he said, I have a wife, I have 2 beautiful children, they go to an international school. He said, I have that card still on my wall reminding me of the goals I set. He said, I'm now a manager for Asian business development manager for an international company. He said, I wouldn't tell anyone else this, and I don't want to reveal it out of respect, but he said, last year my bonus in US dollars was, and it was just an insane amount. And he wasn't boasting at all. Yeah. What he wanted to say was, thank you. And this man, such a beautiful man, humble, excited about his life, devoted to his family, who'd just taken what little he had and focused on the good parts of his life, decided to be grateful for what he had, and changed his entire life around such that now, so then at that stage he was working in Kuala Lumpur, originally from Indonesia, and he said, I fly around the world business class, and now he's living in Dubai. People like that inspire me. People who are just humble and take what they have and apply the principles and live a better life. I love it.
Yeah, I guess that inspires you to try and share your book with more people, and the amount of people who must be out there who have this inside of them, who simply need to change their mindset.
It is, Bo.
To achieve these.
Yeah.
What they
And sometimes we just need a nudge, or we don't even need new information mostly. We just need to be reminded about things that we already know.
Yeah.
We just need to say, okay, I sense that maybe that is true. Now I know it.
Yeah.
Maybe I believed in synchronicity before. Now I know it happens.
Yeah.
Maybe I believed in the law of attraction. Now I know that it's a principle. Maybe I thought my subconscious was powerful. Now I know how powerful it is.
Yeah. That's what I loved about how life works, is a lot of the principles that you write about are things that I knew about, but just needed to hear it again or read it myself or read it out loud.
Yes.
To realise, okay, it's not that difficult. You just need to apply this.
Yeah.
And suddenly things start turning around.
And we need it on a regular basis, some sort of inspiration. I mean, for me, I've been reading personal development books or inspirational books for a long time now. Although until in my mid-20s, I didn't even know self-development books existed. But for the last 30 years or so, I've been reading a lot, and I find it's so helpful. Just even if it's a page a day, just to get you back on track and just remind you, because we do have people in our lives who they're not always inspired. The woman at the checkout counter may not be inspired. She may be angry or frustrated, and people on the highway aren't always uplifted and inspired.
Not at all.
So we need to do the things that keep us uplifted and inspired.
Yeah. I know you've talked about playing tennis earlier, but how do you stay healthy, like your routine, exercise, diet, throughout? You obviously have a fairly busy lifestyle.
For me, it's important to meditate every morning, and sometimes I don't. Most often I do, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes. And I do various things. Sometimes I'll just concentrate on my breathing. That's a nice, and that's been around forever.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
And it really works though. Like,
it does.
I've only tried the last year or so.
Yes. So that's one technique I'll use. Sometimes I'll just listen to a relaxation exercise that I've got on my phone. Sometimes I'll just listen to music, but for me it's important to do that first thing in the day, even though there may be sometimes I think there's something really important. I will usually play tennis 3 days a week if I can fit it in the mornings. The other 4 mornings I live by the beach, so I tend to go out and work out on some monkey bars and things. I like to drink a lot of water. I put lime juice in my water. I like that. Eat as much fresh things as I can. Take the stairs. That's pretty much it. I think I've got reasonably good genes. I think I'm lucky.
Yeah.
We have.
Very right. If you could talk to the 20-year-old version of yourself, what advice would you give him?
Don't be so impatient, because I always was, and I've worked too much. People sometimes say, why don't you talk about life balance? Or I'm bad at life balance. Because I've always been so excited about what I do that I've worked too much. So I would tell the 57-year-old version of myself the same thing. But I would tell myself that I would have wanted to know more about how powerful the subconscious is. That we have these patterns in our life simply because our conscious thoughts become our subconscious programs. So if we tell ourselves we'll always be broke, or we tell ourselves that we always miss out, or we tell ourselves that life is hard, then life shows up like that because it becomes part of our subconscious program. So I would learn about my subconscious early. I think all kids should know that. I understand more than ever that it's important to be happy. The irony is that I wrote a book about being happy in 1988, but it's only in the last few years I've come to understand that the foundation for our success is not really what we know or who we know, but that we do what we do with joy. Over the last 30 years, I've been fascinated with how many people I meet who don't have the best qualifications, and logically speaking, they shouldn't be so outrageously successful, but they are just because they do it with joy and they become magnets for success. The secret is, well, the myth that's been around for 10,000 years is that success will make you happy. But how life works is that happiness will make you successful. and that it's the more that we can enjoy every moment. Our power is in the present moment. Not saying I'll be happy when I get a girlfriend, I'll be happy when I've made an extra $1,000 a month, I'll be happy when there's peace in the Middle East. You've got to do it today. It may sound like a cliche, but when we truly, and this is again what How Life Works is about, when we truly begin to enjoy each hour, each day, and feel blessed and grateful and look for good things, then our life suddenly begins to accelerate. And conversely, people who are depressed, their life slows down. I mean, you're an energy system, and your energy is buoyant and vibrant and powerful when you're happy. And so you find people who are excited about who they are and what they do. They're always finding opportunities, and they're always going places and doing things. And people who are terminally depressed, their life just moves in slow motion, and they don't realise that they're creating it. That's something to know.
Yeah, and these happy, joyous people, opportunities just seem to fall in their laps.
They do, and we think, well, how come they got that?
Over and over again.
They're already happy.
Yeah.
I used to have this idea that if I was miserable and depressed enough, then maybe God would send me $1 million, and I say that in jest.
Yeah.
But eventually I realised that the guys that were getting the $1 million were the ones that already had $1 million and were happy about it.
Yeah.
And that is really how life works too. That our mission in life is simply to be grateful and find as much joy as we possibly can, even in the simple things. And that is where the power comes from.